Hello guys, Dividend Enjoyer here, and today I'm going to be doing a stock analysis video on NVIDIA Corp, ticker symbol NVDA. If you guys are new here, please hit the subscribe button. I do stock analysis videos and personal portfolio videos on the channel. Hoping to get to 1,000 subs by the end of the year, so please hit that subscribe button to help me reach that goal. NVIDIA over the past year is up 52.24%. Current market cap is 4.29 trillion. The price to earnings ratio is 50.26 and the dividend yield is 0.023% annually with a quarterly dividend of about 10 cents per share. The 52-week low of this stock is 86.63 and the 52-week high is 184.48. So obviously this is trading more near that 52-week high than it is trading near that 52-week low. So this stock, also with a very high PE ratio, is priced for perfection in a lot of ways, and historically it has been pretty perfect. And I think it's going to be a very important company going forward. But the psychological reason, and this may sound stupid, that I haven't bought into NVIDIA again was because I was actually a shareholder in about 2018, 2019, and I made about $1,000 profit on like 4,000 in or something. And then I bought something else, and I really wish I had held in, and I almost feel like I've missed the train. But I really think that that's the wrong way to kind of look at this company. I think we have to look at what's going to happen today and what it's worth today, not if I would have held before and what would have happened and what could have happened. I think it's very fair to say that this stock could be underpriced and could be overpriced depending on what you believe the future is going to look like and what you believe that they can do over the long term, because the amount of growth that they've had has been really unbelievable. And because it's so unbelievable, it makes me kind of think that it might be unsustainable. But I also think that these products are so niche and so necessary around the world that NVIDIA may just be undervalued extremely at this level still, and that there still could be a lot of growth going forward. I think it's a very nuanced conversation. I also think it's a little bit out of my area of expertise. So, as always, again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Please do your own research before buying anything or investing in anything. But when I'm looking at NVIDIA, it really makes me think that, if you believe that there's still a couple of years of that double-digit big growth in the 20s and 30s%, I think that there's a lot to love about NVIDIA as a company. I think that if you believe that they're able to continue, if you believe that this AI boom is going to be sustained over the next couple of years, and if you believe that these chips are necessary for everything we're making and that there's not going to be an alternative that's going to be able to steal some kind of market share from NVIDIA, which I'm not 100% sure on. And that's kind of what eliminates me from buying the stock, is that I think at this point it is very expensive, but I also think that it looks very cheap relative to past performance. And that's kind of the story about NVIDIA. But one thing that does kind of make me feel a little bit better about it and potentially makes me think that maybe this is something I should be looking at investing in is that 58 out of 63 analysts either rate it currently a strong buy or buy, with the rest pretty much just rating it a hold, and I believe maybe one is rating it a sell here. So I think that the stock is actually probably selling for a pretty fair price depending on what's most likely to happen going forward in terms of their growth prospects. And you can really see that the company has been able to meet a lot of those crazy growth expectations previously, and that people who've sold out have looked very foolish in the past, and that that is something to very much take into account. But just because the things in the past happened the way they did doesn't mean that's how the future is going to play out, right? So I think that you need to exercise some, you need to really exercise some warranted caution here. And I think that you want to really have to understand the industry and really paint a clear picture in your mind for what the business is going to look like in 10 years. Do you think it's going to be better for NVIDIA, or do you think it's going to be worse? Do you think they're going to be bringing in more money? Do you think they're going to be bringing in less? Do you think that competitors are going to catch up to what they're creating? I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to try and invest in a company like this that's on the forefront of something that's clearly so important for human civilization. And I don't know if I'm necessarily the right person to be able to know the exact value. And I think a lot of people on Wall Street, it's hubris to think that they can expect the crazy results. I think it's a very hard trend to kind of know for sure what's going to happen. But obviously, they've been performing in the past, and they've blown away expectations. That's why expectations are so high. Um, I think that this is probably a company that you're going to win on more often than not, betting on them, being bullish on NVIDIA. And so I'm leaning more towards saying that I think NVIDIA is probably a buy here. Um, but it is also difficult when you have such a high PE ratio, and there's some other good deals out there that look like a little bit less risk, potentially less reward as well, but that's okay because you really want as low of risk in your portfolio as possible. At least that's my opinion. Um, but I really think that NVIDIA as a business model is going to perform very well into the future. But my biggest concern is that the business is very cyclical, and that competitors are going to eventually catch up because whenever you have something that's just so lucrative, like what NVIDIA has with their various chips and GPUs and things that they're creating, you're going to have other people start to encroach on what you're creating. And we kind of seen that with, like Apple. I know Apple was using Intel for the Mac chips, but just humor me with this example. I think that we're going to see more companies start to build out their own chips instead of relying on other companies' chips like Apple did. I think we're going to see other companies really start to challenge NVIDIA because I think that it's a very lucrative business if you can do it right. And you're going to have some of the best minds in the world working to make chips and provide this service that clearly the entire world needs, and very few talented people are able to improve upon. And I think that's a lot of where the value is. And I think that if enough of those people decided to make a competitor company, I think that that could be dangerous. But I also think that the actual equipment that they're using to produce their chips is also extremely valuable. I think it's NVIDIA that does the chip architecture with a third party, or maybe it was AMD that I'm thinking of. But I know one of them does so that they can put more on the chips. I just think the whole industry is very interesting, but I also think it's very difficult for me to fully understand. I just have to be honest with you guys. I'm not necessarily an expert on semiconductors, and I think most people aren't. I can admit that, and the past performance does look good. So as a financial guy, I'm leaning towards saying this is probably, very undervalued for the future prospects, especially if you're a long-term holder. But it kind of feels unbelievable to say that because of how valuable of a company this already is. I mean, it's kind of almost unfathomable to think that they can continue growing at this pace. I mean, it's an unbelievable pace, and I'm going to show you what I mean in the DCF model right here. So as we can see in the DCF model, the average revenue growth is 66.72% annually, which is really unbelievable. And it's mainly because of this outlier year from 2022 to 2024, there was 125%. But I really wouldn't call that an outlier because from 24 to 25, we have 114%. And our trailing 12-month number is 26% higher. So NVIDIA has just blown away expectations again and again. This model has, if we lower it to a 25% each year, even with 25% growth on average over the next 9 years, that's not enough to justify the current price. But if we do the average revenue growth, which is an unbelievable 66.72%, even just 66, we could see that it's undervalued by 898%. And that's definitely something that is worth looking at, right? So I definitely think there's still some gains here, but it's also difficult because even 30% growth, which is an unbelievable rate, only yields you 27% upside. And that's if they hit 30% growth on average over the next 9 years, with 2.5% in perpetuity, which I do think it's going to be higher than this 2.5. I think it's going to be lower than this 30 probably. I would give them 25%, but I'm very conservative in my estimations, and that puts them pretty close to the current value. If we do 27%, that puts them a little high. Let's go Goldilocks, 26, and we're very near the current value. So if you believe that they can exceed their average growth rate of their free cash flow, which the free cash flow growth rate, to be fair, is a whopping 175%. If you believe that they can beat 26% on average each year annually, then you should be very bullish on the stock. And even though, like I said, I'm not really like a chip expert, or I'm not someone that really gets into chips or is super involved in the chip industry, I am someone who understands financials, and it looks to me as though they've been able to consistently beat, and I think that they're going to consistently beat into the future. So I would say that this probably is undervalued, but it's a little bit risky. And because it's a little bit risky, I don't know if I would want to own it. I would want to maybe price out like Lam Research, AMD, really look into the company that's the most vital for semiconductor chips. And then once I figured that out, I would want to get a valuation. I would really want to own that because if there was good growth there, it was consistent, and it wasn't able to be really replaced in the future of this, AI growth, this growth of semiconductors as a whole, these big semiconductor companies. If that company was able to grow into the future, I would want to buy that. I think NVIDIA, though, is, you're getting a lot of quality. You're obviously getting a company that's changing the way that our society functions. And I really think that you probably are getting a pretty good price if we're looking at the numbers historically that they've been able to produce just recently. And if you believe they have like a couple more years of this crazy kind of growth, I mean, it's probably worth to pony up and put some money in. And I think it might be worth for me as well. I'm kind of split though, because I think a better buy might actually be Uber. And I kind of talked about that previously, just because I believe that they're still pretty early on. Their market cap isn't too crazy, and they could really benefit from a lot of the AI innovations. And even if AI innovations aren't there, I can see a lot of growth. I can't really say the same about NVIDIA, but I think that with NVIDIA, just the pedigree of just amazing results it speaks for itself. And I can't fault someone who wants to own this stock. I think it's a very high quality company. And yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it. Thank you guys for watching the video. Really appreciate you. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.